NYPD, New York Police Department, has issued an apology for mistakenly accusing a child in a parade shooting. Put it up for a mask. The NYPD has now officially apologized for mistakenly accusing a 15-year-old in a shooting at Brooklyn Parade. NYPD accused a teenager of a fatal shooting at the Brooklyn Parade, then failing to retract the false allegation for nearly 5 months, despite knowing it was incorrect. Keep that picture up. You do see this. This is the NYPD Crime Stopper, all right? And they put this post up for everyone to see. Here's what happened in a statement sent to news outlets on Sunday. The NYPD said an image, it circulated on social media of a young Mr. Camden, a 15-year-old Brooklyn resident, mistakenly stated that he was wanted for the fatal shooting at the West Indian American Day Parade in September. The young Camden, a high school sophomore, said he had attended the Labor Day celebration after leaving football practice with a teammate. Minutes after they arrived, gunfire erupted along the route, killing 25-year-old Denzel Chan and wounding 4 others, including one of Camden Lee's teammates. Nearly 3 weeks after the shooting, police shared a photograph of Camden on X and Instagram, accusing the child of homicide. They widely circulated the image to news outlets, which continued repeating the false allegation long after police had privately acknowledged it was untrue. Now, let's back up for a moment. We've talked about this on Indisputable, and I've challenged journalists, I've challenged producers, stop reading police reports verbatim on air. Stop it. Stop it. Especially in the development, in the beginning stages of an investigation. Typically, their bias gets the best of them, or their negligence, and sometimes, yes, their malfeasance. Just stop doing it. You are a journalist for a reason. You can make reasonable conclusions. You can ask for more information. You can provide context without providing all of the details like picture, full name, etc. The young man was in high school. Nobody was hiding from the police. There's more. Nearly 3 weeks after the shooting, police shared a photograph of him on the X and Instagram site. So according to an attorney for the family, Camden Lee actually met with homicide detectives days after the initial social media post and was told he was not a suspect in the killing, but was being sought for questioning about what he had witnessed. Go back to nearly 3 weeks after the shooting. Nearly 3 weeks after the shooting. Wait a minute. Nearly 3 weeks after the shooting, the police then shared a photograph of Camden Lee on X and Instagram. But then, according to the family attorney, Camden Lee met with homicide detectives days after the initial social media post and was told he was not a suspect. They didn't take it down to retract. Wait a minute. Whoa. It's a child. It's a child. I mean, I'm sure the investigators involved, somebody had a child. Somebody had to know what it's like to raise a teenager. And this is a dutiful young man. He was coming from practice. You know what it takes to be on the football team? It takes good grades. It takes passing all your classes. It takes having a good behavioral report every single semester in order to be on that team. In the 5 months since, in the 5 months since the initial allegation, the young child, the young Mr. Camden, has received numerous death threats, and it has pushed him and his family into hiding, forcing him to leave the city and miss school weeks at a time. Put it up. The NYPD should have immediately corrected this misstatement, added the department's new chief spokesperson. Quote, "We apologize for the error and we'll continue to seek justice for the victims of this shooting. We'll also seek justice for the victim you created, being the child." Even after police quietly deleted their online accusations and privately conceded that Camden was actually not a suspect in the killing, the NYPD had refused to walk back the allegation, ignoring desperate pleas from Camden's family. In its updated statement, the police department said Lee was a, quote, person of interest in the shooting, which remains unsolved since he was on the scene before, during, and after the incident. They did not elaborate on why Lee was identified among thousands of others at or near the crowd scene, why the mistake was not fixed earlier. Even in their apology, they're painting him with a brush of culpability to cover their mistake. And I agree. This is what the attorney said from the family. Quote, "They're downplaying what they did and not owning up to the fact they put him in harm's way." How are you an enforcement authority, but you refuse to submit to the same rules that you govern others by? You put the young man in danger. You should have had way more vigor in defending the child rather than defending your reputation. Number one, your reputation is already screwed. This makes it worse. Why don't people like the police? Why are there folk that don't like the police? Because of like this. We should universally be on the same page with this. If you are pro-police, anti-police, it don't matter. I'm not anti-police myself. I'm anti-bad police. But everybody should be on the same page. Agency made a mistake. Governmental authority made a mistake. A child is suffering. A family is suffering. Child has been put in danger, getting death threats. Where's the press conference? Are the death threats being investigated? They're not likely, right? Because you all are the offending agency. What if somebody else was the offending agency? Would you then have the right stomach for this investigation? Lee's mother, her name is Chichi Brock. Ms. Brock described the statement as a superficial apology and questions why it was not released earlier. She said the family had not heard directly from anyone in the police department about the mistake. Quote, "This could have been done in September after we had the meeting," Brock said. They don't understand the damage that it caused. Yes, they do. They do understand. They don't care. In the context of their affiliation, organization, and indoctrination in the culture known as policing, they do know and they do not care. Now, there are some officers in the NYPD, they see this much differently. They see exactly what was done. They know it is wrong, and they would talk about it amongst themselves. They would talk about it in their families, maybe even at their Bible studies, in their prayer life, whatever it may be. I want to say this to you. If you believe you're a good cop, prove it. Because there are a lot of good cops who believe they are good cops because they're not doing what the cops who make the news are doing. They're not actively violating the rights of a citizen. They're not killing unarmed human beings. They're not trying to cover up corruption or even negligence. If you believe you're a good cop because you're not doing that, if you're not reporting it when it is done, if you're not leaking it to the press when it is done, you are not as good as you believe. Sharon, thoughts?
I concur. It's such a low bar. Maybe Eric Adams, the mayor of New York, we can count on him to maybe do a deep dive here and fix it. Not. Listen, you're so right what you said about the police here, that CYA non-apology. It was the CYA lie. Just contained more grievances and more slander as far as I'm concerned, libel. But the other thing about the journalist, Doc, that you and I have talked about so much is exactly what you're saying. I was an anchor in St. Louis when the chief put out a statement about how they had to kill a black man because he lunged at them with a knife. And I warned my colleagues then. They said they're going to release the video. Do you know what the video showed? No one lunged at anyone.
Wow.
A hospital consolidation in rural Georgia closing because of greed. The press release says, to better serve the citizens of Georgia. I said, I'm not saying that. What are you smoking here? If a hospital closes, they're not helping people. Do your duty. Do your job. So easy to call that press conference you talked about. Who could be against you? Listen, who could be against you? Don't want to do it. Don't want to take accountability. Sick.
And
they
because
don't care
of that,
about him.
That's right. Because of that, you get more criticism because you failed to do what a decent human being would have said is right to do. If you start doing those things, I promise you, more people will start respecting the agency overall. All right? I'm trying to help you all.
God.
Okay.
You could clean it up in 2 seconds, Doc. I'm sorry. It'd take you 2 seconds to clean this up, but you're spread too thin. It's just it's so easy.
It's wild.